Good afternoon, guys. It's Work and bringing you a very quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the one-day chart on Coinbase. And Bitcoin, we talked yesterday, guys. We were watching this 3,800. As soon as I ended the video, Bitcoin pushed right above that $3,800 resistance, guys, with volume, as I was talking about, guys. So this is looking extremely bullish. The next area to take out, as we discussed yesterday, is going to be this $4,000 to $4,120 range. Obviously, as I pointed out in the past, guys, there's a lot of order structure past here. So we can just see eyeballing it. This is obviously going to provide a lot of resistance. There's a lot of sell orders that are very likely sitting in here, as is evident by price back here coming up, wick, 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 breaking down, wick, 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 breaking down. So all those wicks signify there's very likely a lot of sell orders that are still sitting up here. So it should be a very difficult area to break above. That being said, if we do break above it, guys, that's going to obviously, with decisively, not by a wick, but if we decisively break above, and again, decisively on the daily, I mean, by decisive break in this case, I mean on the daily chart, we have a daily candle both opening and close above that 4120. If that does happen, guys, I do think that'd be a good sign that the bottom may in fact begin. Now we are looking at volume here, guys. As I said, volume has been able to maintain itself. We had this move start on September the 17th on Sunday evening, and it was daily volume on that day was about 7,000, which was a nice little uptick. Yesterday, guys, where all that bullish momentum took place, we hit actually 10,000. Now daily volume actually dropped down to about 9.9 on the close, but we were up above 10 billion. We were up above 10 billion for quite some time, guys. And as I told you many times in the past, 10 billion is a very good number, in my opinion, to signify new money entering into this market. If we can maintain daily volume above 10 billion on a consistent basis, by consistent I mean on above 10 billion for at least a week or more, I do believe there's a very good chance that the bottom may in fact be in. We haven't seen volume this high since May of last year, guys. So this is, even if this thing does come back around, guys, this is definitely a different move. We're seeing a lot more action in the market than we have in a very, very long time, at least 9 months. So I'm not, even if this thing does turn around, I'm not sloughing this off. This is a very good sign that the market is ready to move. And even if we come back down to lower prices here, guys, I do think that's going to be a temporary drop. And I do think very likely once this thing does take off, it's going to take off with a vengeance. So I'm going to be watching this area here, 4120, very closely. As I said, pointed out yesterday, that's not only it's not only a resistance as is evident by the order structure back here, but also, guys, if we go swing high, swing low, from this order block back here, which is the first place that price actually created structure since the breakdown from 5,000. This coincides perfectly. That golden pocket between the 618 and the 65 fib level coincides perfectly with order structure, with where we saw all the resistance here in the past. So that's going to be an extremely relevant zone, guys. If we do break above that, oftentimes, remember, you're trading against algorithms. You're not just trading against other people. And algos are watching this area, in my opinion. They're watching. I believe that they're using this as their pivot high, and I do believe that once you break above that 618, a lot of algos are going to shift, and they're going to go from watching picking targets to short. In other words, right now they're looking for a possible bounce off this area, picking targets down here. They're going to if we can break above that decisively, they're going to go from picking targets down here to picking targets up here. In other words, they're going to go from looking for short positions into looking for long positions, and that's it. Obviously, guys, if that does happen, and again, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that is a definite, but I'm saying just eyeballing it here, looking at this here, guys, that would make a lot of sense. Just looking at the order structure back here, it makes a lot of sense that algos are using this as their pivot high, and if we can break above that, I do believe they're going to shift. All right, looking at the daily RSI, we can see that we're just now getting into overbought territory. Would suggest a possible drop in price here, at least in the short term here. Not saying that's going to happen, just saying that that is a possibility. We'll have to wait and see. Zooming in here to the 4 hour, we can see it's been overbought for quite some time, coming back down, possibly retesting. We'll have to wait and see kind of how this plays out. But if I zoom in here to the daily chart, or excuse me, to the 1 hour chart, not the daily chart, the 1 hour chart. Excuse me, guys, let me get a drink of water. Okay, all right, zooming in here to the 1 hour chart, guys, we can see that if we look very closely here at price, what do we have? We can see that obviously price created a higher low right here, right? Now if we come over here and we're in an uptrend here, right? So if we come over here and we look at the 1 hour RSI at the exact same point, draw a line straight down, what do we have? We have a lower low on the RSI. So clearly we've got divergence. Now this being in an uptrend, that is hidden bullish divergence. So in other words, and I know that can be confusing, especially for those of you that aren't familiar with divergence, and for those of you that are, please forgive me as I discuss this, guys. I'm not talking down to you at all. I know some of you are very advanced traders, others are just starting out. So I try to repeat some of this stuff for those that may not be familiar. So for those veteran traders, please indulge me for just a minute. So looking anytime you're in an uptrend, guys, if you're seeing divergence, definitely looking down below. That divergence is going to be hidden divergence, and in this case, that is going to be hidden bullish divergence. That would suggest that price is going to possibly break up. Now, this is on a smaller time frame. This is only on the hourly. That being said, that breakup in price may not be too significant. So what I'm a little more what I'm a little more curious about is if we look at this exact same structure here, and we draw a little line, what do we have? Oh, sorry guys, I need to do it there. What does that look like to you? Looks like a possible broadening wedge. And a broadening wedge is typically a bullish sign. Now, I think the numbers are breaks bullish about 65-70% of the time, breaks bearish about 30-35% of the time, somewhere thereabouts. So that would suggest that price may end up breaking up. If it does, again, we're only seeing this is pretty evident on the hourly, on the higher time frames, not so much. But that being said, we may see a breakup in price. Now, if it does end up breaking up, guys, I'm going to be watching this area right back here at about on Coinbase. That's about 39.50. If we can break above 39.50, I'm going to be targeting this area right, where am I at? Sorry guys. Using this as a target. If we can break above that 39.50, oh, that needs to be straight up and down. There we go. Our target would become right around 4,050. So about a $100 jump for a very quick scalp trade if that does end up breaking up. And you'd have to really be all over that, watching this very, very closely. And if you're a day trader, you are. If you're not, you don't care so much. But this is more for the day traders out there. For everybody else, guys, I'm going to be watching very, very closely. Let's zooming back out here to the daily. Get rid of this. As I said, guys, for everybody else, I'm going to be watching very closely. As I said, that resistance at about at about 41.20, all the way down to about 4,000. If we can break above that, guys, I'm going to start to get very bullish. Until then, I'm going to be watching to trade this within a range. If we do break back down, I'm going to be looking to buy at about 3,800, somewhere thereabouts. And I'm going to be looking to sell right around 4,000. And I do think there's a good chance that we may just bounce in between the two. We'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out. If that does happen, I'll just play the range, especially if volume remains tight, because that means it'll probably very likely stay volatile. But we'll have to kind of wait and see how that plays out. For now, guys, though, that's kind of my plan, waiting to see how price reacts up here. If you do believe this thing is going to break bear, a very logical place to enter into a short would probably be right here at about 4,000 to 4,050, somewhere thereabouts, guys, targeting about 3,800, 3,850, even 3,900 if you're a little bit more conservative. Again, it all depends on how you want to play this, but this is going to be a very, very tough resistance here, guys. That being said, we are seeing, as I said, guys, we're seeing a lot more volume than we've seen in about 9 months, and this thing is we're seeing a lot of structure in the market, as I pointed out yesterday. So this thing is looking rather bullish. Coming over here, looking at the daily chart, guys, looking at our moving averages, exponential moving averages. We just broke above the 50 decisively. I told you yesterday we had broken above, but we had yet to see a daily candle both open and close above the 50. We have seen that now, guys. So that is a decisive break. We're also seeing this 8-day EMA about to cross this 55-day EMA on the daily chart. If that does happen, obviously it's an extremely bullish sign as well as this 21-day EMA looking like is about to cross above the 50. All these are very, very bullish signs, guys. Not saying the bottom is in, but as of right now, guys, things are looking rather bullish. All right, let's come over here and look at longs versus shorts. And this is extremely, extremely interesting, guys. All right, looking at shorts, you would expect to see this, guys. We've seen shorts drop off the board here, fairly significantly. Obviously, they're getting liquidated. We've seen shorts drop off the board here. Let's see, from their high a couple days ago to their low, they dropped off about 28.3%. And that's understood. These are all getting stopped out, right? That makes sense. Although even though I'd like to see some shorts start to stack here, that would tell me that this market is a little more healthy. In other words, we don't just have guppies in the market here, which I don't think we do, which I'm going to point out here in a minute. But right now, guys, this is expected to see shorts drop. Now, this is what was unexpected. Looking at longs, we saw longs drop actually more. I think longs dropped right around 30%. Let's take a look. 31%, a little over 31%, guys. That's fairly significant, guys, to see longs drop like that. And that is in a very, very healthy sign. Remember, these are not longs getting stopped out. These are longs taking profit. that is a very, very, very healthy sign, guys. Tells you that there are not a lot of guppies in the market, and this is a sign to market makers that people are not people are aware of manipulation, guys, and they're willing to just quickly not give in to FOMO and take profit. So that means, in other words, this market is becoming a lot more difficult, even though it's much easier than others, a lot more difficult, and that is a very, very relative term, to manipulate. It's still easy to manipulate, but it's becoming a lot more difficult, and it's nothing like it was at the beginning of 2018, where market makers were just taking guppies' money left and right. So this is a very, very healthy sign that longs are dropping. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap Bitcoin there. Let's quickly look at EOS. This is EOS on Bitfinex. Looking at the 4-hour chart, guys, we can see that EOS broke above that $3 resistance. I told you guys last time we talked about EOS that if we did break above $3, that I do believe that that would be an extremely, extremely bullish sign if we could break above that $3 resistance. And we broke above it with a vengeance, guys. EOS just tore up above $3, didn't even acknowledge 315, hit the top of that 340 resistance, 340, 350 very briefly. It was pushed back down again very briefly, and then just took off once again, and now it's finding resistance where we expected at about 370, and it's consolidating now. And if we zoom in here on the 4, actually, let me zoom in here on the 1 hour, guys, because you'll see a little bit better. Zooming in here on the 1 hour, we can see that EOS is entering into this getting tighter and tighter series of lower highs, higher lows, aka a wedge. And as we're approaching the apex of that wedge right here, guys, what do you expect? Well, you expect a larger move to come. Now, again, we're seeing this as a rather small wedge, so that is going to be proportionate to the move. So I'm going to be watching very closely. What I'd like to see with EOS, the next major area of resistance that we need to break above is $4. If we can break above $4, again, guys, that's going to show me that this thing has some serious legs to it. And we also are looking at volume on EOS is just, I told you guys last time that I wanted to see daily volume consistently above 15 billion for the day. Looking at volume on EOS, sorry guys. Looking at volume on EOS, we're at about 2 billion for the day. I believe we were there at 2 billion yesterday as well. So just about 1.8 billion is what it was yesterday. But look at what it has been, guys. Highest we got up to 1 billion, but before that we were at 6 billion, 5 billion, 4 billion, or excuse me, 400 million, 500 million, 600 million. Finally get up to 1 billion, then kind of dropped off to that 9 million, 800 million, 750 million, and then slowly started upticking to where we exploded to our volume more than doubled almost overnight. And sitting at about 1.8 billion today, we're at about 2 billion. So this is very, very bullish volume for EOS, and if that can continue, again, very similar to Bitcoin, if we can get that volume continuing to be above on EOS, about 1.5 billion, guys, that's going to signal new money entering this market, and at that point, I'll believe the bottom is in. But this on EOS is looking much more bullish than Bitcoin. Again, looking at the daily chart, guys, we can see that we've broken above, we've created a higher high, which we can't say for Bitcoin yet. In other words, we had our low here, and we were watching to see if EOS could finally take out this prior high here, which was sitting at 320. At least on Bitfinex, sitting at 320, and it did. It broke above it decisively, guys. So this is an extremely bullish sign. Let's wait and see if we can break above it, at least this 370, and at least get into this zone here. Until that does happen, I think there's a good chance that we're going to possibly, if price does end up breaking down out of this wedge here, again, going back to the hourly, if it does end up breaking down, I'm going to be watching this area right here for a possible good entry point, possibly around 340. If 340 breaks down, guys, I think it'll be a quick drop, probably down to about 320, somewhere thereabouts, guys. But that's the area I'm going to be watching if EOS does end up breaking down. If we break below 320, guys, then at that point, I do think there's a good chance that we just continue on down, at least back down below $3. To the upside, what we need to take out is this prior high. Obviously, here at about 380, let's see, 389. If we can take out 389, guys, the second we do take out 389, guys, I do think that it'll be a very good chance that we're just going to blow right past $4. We'll have to wait and see how that kind of plays out. But you want to be very careful. We could see a possible bull trap where price breaks up, hits at about that $4 resistance, and then just turns right back around. So kind of have to be very careful. That being said, though, guys, if this thing does end up breaking above this threshold here at about 390, let's call it, guys, I do think that would be confirmation for me to at least enter into a very small scalp trade, targeting possibly the next, if we break above $4, the next major area of resistance is going to be about 425, somewhere thereabouts, guys, which would be a nice little swing trade, a nice little scalp trade if that does end up happening. Zooming out here on the daily, guys, one of the other reasons that I'm watching this $4 resistance is because we can see when price broke down here, using this as our pivot high all the way back in November of last year, we can see that when price broke down, guys, if we use that as our pivot high, we go pivot high, pivot low. We can see that the 618 fib, that golden pocket, coincides perfectly with that $4 resistance, guys. And we can see that looking back here, guys, that this is a very, very strong supply zone. In other words, price ended up breaking down, tried to break back up above, wasn't able to, got pushed back down, pushed back down, pushed back down for 4 days. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, pushed back down, and then it just collapsed again. So there's a lot of sell orders that are very likely sitting in here, as is evident when price broke into this very, very briefly, into this $3.70 to $4 resistance. If we can break above this again, above that 618 fib, once again, guys, I do believe that algos are going to switch and they're going to stop looking for shorts and start looking for longs. In other words, they're going to stop picking targets down here and start picking targets up here. Again, not saying that's a definite, but it just, in my opinion, that seems to make a lot of sense. Just if we look at the prior order structure, we look at the swing high, swing low, and we look at where price was in the past. So in my opinion, guys, I do believe there's a very good likelihood if we can get above $4 decisively, again, not by a wick, but a daily candle, both opening and closing above that $4 range, I do think there's a good chance the bottom may in fact be in, and I'll go start picking targets up here. And again, that could be the shove that the market needs to turn this thing back around. Now again, EOS is going to follow Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin ends up crashing, EOS will very likely end up crashing as well. That being said, though, guys, if Bitcoin, even if it continues moving sideways and or continues up, EOS's chart is looking much more bullish than Bitcoin, and is looking very, very nice at this point anyway. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe, take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.